Right, so we are back. Right, so the number 3 here, 20-point intervention paper handout presentation. So this project is subject to change in regards to um, maybe percent effort or different. This is one we might work through somewhat in class as class proceeds and I learn more about the class and so forth. But the first part of this is a just 10% of the 20 points, and what that first 10% or the first part of the assignment is for you and the rest of the students who are in your group to identify one or two articles that the class will read. So this article should not be, or these articles should not be one that you're going to cover in great detail with the class or in your class presentation, because then it really wouldn't make sense for the class to read the articles. And this article is due to me by October 8th. You need to bring that article for me to check and approve a good bit before October 8th. We'll discuss that later. So what this means is that once I set these groups, you all need to get together rather soon. You can do it before or after class so that you can start figuring out who's going to do what in regards to the assigned work. So then there's going to be a presentation component of these 20 points, which is worth 20% of the 20 points, and we might increase that a bit. But each of the individuals in your group will present and present different components of the presentation. And we'll talk about that presentation in a little bit. And then finally, there's going to be the quality of the information that you provide in your paper and whether it has all necessary components will be worth 70% of those 20 points. And the reason I make 70% is because for the paper is that the paper is done individually, whereas the rest of it is done as a group. And I know that sometimes you have group members who tend to do less, but that person's still going to have to make sure that they do what they're supposed to be doing in the paper, because that's where the majority of the points come in. The oral final exam is again going to be, or will be, cumulative, and again will last about 15 minutes, just like the midterm final exam. And the statements that I made in regards to synthesizing information and so forth apply to the final exam as it does to the midterm exam. And then at the end of the semester, and I will give 10-point participation grade to everyone as I see fit. So that will obviously be based upon your participation in class. Um, so how active you are in answering questions, how active you are in contributing to thoughts that other people provide, and so forth. So as you can see here, I provide you with some resources, some readings you might want to do. I provide you with this link to my Dropbox folder where you can download, I think, all of the articles. There might be one or two that you're not able to download from there, that you have to go to. You'll need to go to either a web link or to the library webpage to get. But for the most part, you can get everything at that in that folder by the individual, and this is done by class. Okay. So these other resources are not resources or things that you need to download. They're just bits of places you can go for more information. So today should be the 20th of August, and you are reviewing the syllabus. And then we're not going to do stuff on single subject design, but you need to review the two files, the two YouTube videos with the basics of CBM. So next week, for class next week, you will need to have read all these articles that are listed. They are under the curriculum-based assessment and measurement. So only unless, if you're really, really familiar with CBM, meaning that you not only have you administered it several times before, but you've also read these articles that I have listed here, then you don't need to read this Dino 1985 and the Fuchs 2004 article. But if you have not read those articles, then you should go ahead and read them. what I would recommend you doing, even though I don't necessarily have them in this order, is I would recommend you starting, with the Dino 1985 article, and then just, then the Dino Fuchs Martins Shin 2001 article, and so on. So you just kind of, you're reading them in the order in which they were published. Well, then we'll be talking about fluency and opportunities to respond in Classroom 3 on September 3rd. September 10th is our fourth class. Um, this is one here that I say, for whatever reason, I'm trying to think, where is it here, that for whatever reason that daily article you might have to get from the web. I think my copy is a bad copy or something. That's why I don't have it there. So you should get that daily article from the web. The fifth class is on experimental analyses. And you'll see there I have an interesting read. So this is not an article that necessarily goes along with the rest of the class assignments that day, or what we necessarily be talking about, but you always are hearing about class sizes and the effects of class sizes in the classroom. So I think it's really important that you're not just hearing the rumors or just hearing popular press stuff, but that you're able to actually read some articles that are based upon true data to make decisions and to think about the effects of class size on student engagement and teacher-pupil interactions. Okay. On September 24th, we'll begin talking about RTI, and then the week of October 1st, you get to show me what you've learned so far up to that point in class. October 8th, we'll continue talking about RTI and do a little bit about dynamic assessment. On the 15th of October, we'll have a class session on direct instruction. Excuse me for 1 second. Okay. Explicit instruction and strategy instruction. On the 22nd of October, it's just sort of a catch-up day. A lot of times, there are notes that we haven't covered because we have ended up talking too much in class about things, which I am extremely happy about doing. That's what I want to do, but I sort of put no articles in that class for us to read, so that we have some time to catch up. And then starting on the 29th of October, we start having our presentations. So you'll see from this point forward, there are 2 to 3 presentations listed per class. So starting on the 29th, you all will start doing the majority of the presenting in class. So we'll still have an opportunity at the beginning of class for people to just critique the articles that we've read for that class, but then each of the 3 different groups presenting that day will get up and present. So presentation on phonemic awareness will be that day, phonics that day, and spelling that day, and so forth. Okay, so you can see that's how the rest of the semester works out for us there. And the final exam is scheduled at this point on December 16th from 7 to 10 p.m. I think that is kind of late within the semester, so I will be available and will be happy to administer the final exam on December 16th. That really seems late. I need to check that up again. But it's possible that you'll be able to do it ahead of time. Now, with that said, do not go and schedule a plane flight to go someplace before communicating with me. So just you are supposed to be there are available on December 16th from 7 to 10 p.m. to take the exam. So communicate with me before doing anything in regards to scheduling for a reason for not being there. All right, so the paper and the presentation. So the intervention presentation paper, there are so many potential intervention studies that it's impossible for everyone to get in-depth knowledge regarding all intervention areas. Thus, groups of individuals will be assigned to an academic intervention area and be required to find research and summarize research related to 2 specific interventions for that academic area. You do not have to select an intervention for which there is abundant support. In fact, it is fine to present on an intervention that you know to be widely used, but to provide the class with evidence to suggest that possibly the intervention should not be widely used. So there are a lot of interventions that you all might be using out in schools for which there's actually very little and maybe no research. There's actually some interventions out there which the research suggests maybe this isn't the best intervention, but it continues to be used in the schools. So in any of those cases, if it's an intervention for which there are studies suggesting it should not be used, presenting that data to the class will be very informative. But there you might also find some sort of interventions out there for which there are not studies looking at that particular intervention with that name. For instance, Read Naturally is a widely used intervention. You probably find 4 or 5 good studies on Read Naturally. But Read Naturally, a primary component of Read Naturally is repeated readings. Well, there are hundreds of articles on repeated readings. Now, there are also articles that discuss repeated readings, some meta-analyses that discuss what are the important components of repeated readings intervention. So you can discuss whether or not Read Naturally has those components as part of the intervention package. So those are some different ways of going about doing this. I want you all to have perfect scores on this. I would like everyone in the class to get 100 on everything. But most of all, I would want everyone in class to get 100 on the presentations because I want everyone to get good information. If you don't do a good job on your presentation, you're hurting the rest of the class as well. So I say that because I'm saying it to highly encourage each group to come and talk to me about their presentation and to meet with me way before the presentation is to go over what they're hoping or thinking about presenting. Okay. So in regards to the articles, you need to get a permission from me. Show me the article before getting your. So you need to show me your article before having it assigned to the class, which is due on October 8th. And on October 8th date, the group needs to send me a PDF of the document so that I can make it available to the rest of the class. So again, it needs to be a PDF that you send to me. It can either be a journal article or a chapter, but you need to send me the PDF. Group members need to meet. You guys should meet several times to discuss who's going to present what and exactly how you're going to carry it off. Groups are encouraged to provide me with their presentations prior to the presentation for my comments regarding what might be missing or unnecessary in the presentation. You must give me a minimum of 2 days to look at the materials. Do not send it to me the night before your presentation. I will not look at it the night before unless we have had prior discussion regarding it coming to me that late. So again, these presentations should be 20 to 30 minutes. There will probably be 3 to 4 of you per group, which means you probably want to go more towards the 30-minute side. So that's 30 divided by 4. You're looking at about 7 minutes per person per presentation. It doesn't have to be divided perfectly, but you all can think about that. Okay, so this is what papers and presentations should include the following. So kind of these 3 bullet points. The presentation should probably be equally divided in regards to time for these 3 bullet points. But the paper is probably going to focus a little bit more on numbers 1 and 3. Okay, so or bullet point 1 and bullet point 3. So the first bullet point is just sort of a general discussion. Why do we need phonemic awareness interventions or instruction? Well, if you're going to become an accurate, fluent reader, you need phonemic awareness. There's no question about it, and there's all kinds of information you can have there. So essentially, this first bullet point is, why do we need instruction in this area? To what extent is it part of the general ed curriculum, and what extent should it be part of the general ed curriculum? Why do students need to master these skills that are taught within the intervention? Okay. It could also be more like maybe it's not the intervention because maybe the intervention you have is a junky intervention, but why do students need to know math, basic math computation skills or problem solving skills? What's the importance and relevance of that information to students? To what extent do students out there struggle in developing those skills? Okay. Then you're going to talk about information specific to your chosen interventions. And because you're presenting two interventions, bullet point 2 might be you talk about the first intervention and in regards to bullet point 2, and then the third, still talking about the first intervention, talk about bullet point 3, and then you might present the third intervention, talk about in relation to bullet point 2, and then bullet point 3. Okay, so you want to give bullet point 2 is basically just telling us, what is the intervention you chose, for what population is it intended to be used, how do you implement it, how much does it cost to implement it, is it something that's implemented at the group level, individual level, is it a computer-based intervention, what are the components of the intervention, and then the next part is a description of the research supporting or refuting the intervention being presented that you'll be presenting. Okay. Again, it's not just that you can come to talk to me about these interventions, but you should come and talk to me about these interventions. Your group should schedule time to meet with me to discuss these interventions. Okay, so here are some resources that you might use to find some practices. People in the past few years have been having a little bit difficult time with those What Works Clearinghouse, and but this year I put the ebi.missouri.edu, and I think you'll be able to find some more there. And you also can come and talk to me about interventions. Another change I've made is in the last few years, I generally give people a bunch of the articles. Um, this year, I'm going to let you all go off on your own and find those, unless you just come to me and talk to me, and I'll sit down and talk to you and help you your group do a search and look for stuff. But I'm not just going to hand you the articles. If your school district is using an intervention, I highly encourage you to look in, like to ask me, say, hey, Dr. Ardoin, or call me Scott, actually, this, I want to do phonemic awareness because I'm a kindergarten teacher or a special education teacher, and I do a lot with the phonemic awareness, and this is a program I use. So I want to do more research in that area. Okay, so finally, there's an alternative to this, and that you would still have to do a paper, but if you are interested in actually implementing an intervention in the school, and you somehow already have access to doing this sort of thing, and we could get the intervention so it can be implemented about at least 3 times, ideally 4 times a week, then and some stuff is sort of maybe set up for you already, or it's most definitely going to happen, then you can talk to me. If you're interested in helping someone else out who might be doing that, you can also let me know that. So I sent you all an email that provides you with a link to the Excel document. And in that Excel document, I'm asking you all to rank order what your presentation preference is. So I think I asked you to give me a rank order up to 3 for your presentation preference. So use that information. If you want to you would like an alternative, you can put a note in there that don't list it as 1, 2, or 3. Still list your presentations 1, 2, or 3, but you can write on the same row with your name that Dr. Ardoin, I have access to be able to do the alternative, or I don't have access but I want to do the alternative, and then during that, before or after our first class, we will have discussion about that. All right, so that is it. So now for the rest of the class, you can either stay there and watch the video, or you can go home and watch the video, but you need to watch that video on CBM before our next class, because I will expect you to know the information that I present during those 2 videos. Have a nice rest of the week, and if this was your first week back into graduate school, congratulations, and I hope you have had a good week. And if it's your second year or beyond that, well, keep on trekking. It does come to an end, and it is beneficial, and you will appreciate it. I look forward to meeting you all personally, and we will take a few, probably probably a good 20 minutes next week just to get to know each other. Um, Take care. Have a nice evening.